All right, now we're doing 7Q length and 2 values. This is by Lonely Kitty, and 94% of the people like it. So given an integer n and 2 other values, we're going to build an array of size n filled with these 2 values alternating. All right. So here's an array that's 5 in length, 5 elements in length, and it's going to go from true to false. So true, false, true, false, true, just like that. 10 with blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. And then 0, just an empty array. So pretty simple stuff. One thing we could do a for loop. We could say let result equal an empty array. And we can come down here and say for let I equal 0, while I is less than n, we'll say I plus plus. All right? And then we'll just say result. No, we'll say if. So if I divided by 2 gives us a remainder. So if I is odd, we want to say result dot push, and we'll push in there the second value, because here's 0, so index 0 is even, index 1 is odd. So we'll put the second value in 1, and then the first value will go in the even. So right here we'll just say else results dot push first value. So if it's even, put the first. If it's odd, put the second. And then we'll say return result. Test that out. Oops. And it works. And let's attempt it. And look at that, just like that. But you know what? There's other ways to do this. We can do it a little more concisely. Let's comment this out, because we might be able to use some of this stuff. And we'll come up here and say const alternate equals n, but instead of first value, second value, we'll just put f and s. Need for speed. All right, and we'll have the arrow right here. We'll say console.log, so we can test while we go. And we'll start off here with an array.from. All right, this is your first time seeing it, or you need a refresher. We got it right here. The array.from static method creates a new shallow copied array instance from an iterable or array-like object. Okay, so here's the syntax we're going to be using. We're going to say array.from. We're going to have the array-like thing, and then we're going to have this function right here with an element index, and then we're going to do like if the index is, we'll do basically what we did on the for loop as the expression. But the thing is, what's the array-like object? So we're going to come on all the way down here, and we're going to look at this one right here. And you see this little object right here where it says length, colon, and then whatever we want is the length. That's going to be our, what is it, array-like object. So we'll come over here and say, what is that, the curly braces, and then we'll say length, and then we'll say the length is now in. So let's test this out to see what we got going on. So now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 undefined elements right there. So it's a good start, because it is 5 to start off with, as you see right here. So now we're going to have, let's go back over to the from. Now we're going to have this little expression right here with the element index. So we don't need the element in this one, so we're just going to have this underscore represent the element, and we're going to have I represent the index, okay? So we'll just say in remainder operator 2, like usual, but this time instead of an if statement, we're going to use this ternary operator, which is the only JavaScript operator that takes 3 operands: a condition followed by a question mark, then an expression to execute if the condition is truthy followed by a colon, and finally the expression to execute if the condition is falsy. And this operator is frequently used as an alternative to an if-else statement. So we say this is the condition right here, followed by a question mark. So if n is odd, we will return second, right? And if not, okay, so this is the truthy thing followed by a colon, and then the falsy thing will be first, like that. And so let's do the test, see what it looks like. False, 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 come on now. All right, if in, not in, if I divided by 2. Okay. Let's test it one more time. Looks good just like that. Awesome. All right, so now let's get this, bring it up here so we can make sure for real. Test it out. Looks good. Attempt it. And it looks good. But you know what? We can bring this down here because there's other ways to do this. Instead of the array.from, we could just use the array constructor. Array constructor like this. And if you don't know about the array constructor, you need a refresher. It's just used to create an array objects, okay? So we can use this syntax here, array, with inside the parentheses the array length, which we'll just say the array length is in. So let's test this out. All right, so now we've got 5 empty items, which is cool, but it's not as cool as the 5 undefined elements, because we need to make this into elements before we can do anything to it. So to do that, we're just going to make this into an array literal. So let's pop this inside of some brackets. Test it. Okay, now it kind of looks just dumb. But if we use spread syntax, which allows an iterable such as an array or string to be expanded in places where 0 or more arguments or elements for array literals are expected. So we put in front of this array, ... Now let's see what this thing looks like. Haha, so now we got this going on. So now we can do something like this using the map method. So we'll say .map like that. And if you need a refresher or this is your first time seeing the map method, it creates a new array populated with the results of calling a provided function on every element in the calling array. So for this one here, for this example, every element is being multiplied by 2. So 1 times 2 is 2, 4 times 2, 8, 9 times 2, 18, 16 times 2, 32. We run it, and it gives us the same array like we wanted it. So down here, we're going to just put this expression in there. Because if you look at the map method, we can use this syntax, which looks almost exactly like what it did on the array.from right here. You know, you see this? All right, so let's come over here, and we'll just take this, copy this, and put this expression inside the map. All right, it's got the element, which we don't need, the index, and then all this stuff right here. Test it out. What? All right. What's going on here? What is this? What's this problem? Oh, too many of these. Is that it? It couldn't be. Yes, it is. Test it. Yes, it was. All right, cool. So we've got this going on. Now let's get this, bring it up here, test it out, and it works, and attempt it. And there we go. And you know what? We got time for one more way. This one's a little bit different from the last two. This time we're going to be using recursion, okay? If you need a refresher, you haven't heard of recursion before, it's the act of a function calling itself to solve problems that contain smaller subproblems. So we can come down here and we can say, how would we say this? We'll just put a little this right here, and we'll start this array by saying f, right? So the first part of this array is f, and then we're going to do recursion. We're going to bring it down alternate like this. We'll say alternate, and then inside here we'll go in -1 comma s comma f. Also, we need to say if n exists. So if n exists, so if n is not 0, we're going to do this, okay? And so basically, we're going to start off by putting f in the array, and then we're going to come back and redo this again, but then we're going to put s in the array because s will now be the f because we switched it around here, and n is going to be -1 more. So it's just going to keep going until it's just going to keep making new elements until it runs out of n, and then it's just going to return an empty array like this. So let's test this out. So right now it looks kind of weird because we've got this empty array and we've got all these different arrays with this, but that's because this is not expected, just like spread syntax. It's not expected. So what we're just going to do is put the ... in front of this alternate, test this out. Small array. Well, you know what? I know this works. I know this works for sure. So let's just bring this out. Maybe the console.log doesn't work. Let's test it out, and just like that, works like a charm. Let's get rid of this console.log right here. So we've got 4 different ways to do it. We've got recursion, we've got the array constructor with map, we've got the array.from, and then we've also got a standard for loop with some if-else statement going on here. So let's test it out one more time. Looks good. Attempt it. All right, and submit it. All right, so you can see right here they did a for loop. They did, instead of the if statements we did, they just did a ternary operator right there. Right here they're doing the array.from. Right here they're doing recursion, and you can just check out the rest if you feel like it. Here's mine just right here. Best practice in my opinion. Very much like it, and we'll see you next time.